Hi, Kenny. It's so nice to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Elisha. Thank you for having me. It's so good to be with you.
Beautiful, beautiful. And thank you for coming, It means a whole lot. Thank you so much, Kenny. Okay, so Kenny, I am so excited to have you on the show for diverse reasons. All right. Firstly, it's because I believe that knowledge is the solution to world's problem. You know, most
Yes.
of those folks who are in power, who are in some sort of position, who are just running these things anyhow, that's because they are ignorant of, the proper way of how it should be done. And some of them even choose to just decide to turn blind eyes to those stuffs. So I strictly believe that knowledge is the solution to all of those problems. Now, secondly, I firmly believe that there are some things that Kenny knows that some of my audience needs to hear this stuff directly from your mouth in order to experience transformation. And thirdly, I myself, I am of the belief that I am definitely going to learn one or two things from your story, your insight, your experiences, I am so, so sure of that. So for that reason, Kenny, I want us to get started with your introduction, your journey so far, the challenges that you faced, and how you overcame them. And afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Kenny, over to you.
Well, Elisha, again, thank you so much for having me. I love telling the story, not about what I am doing, but what God is doing through me. And He's so good. And so I was a basketball coach and high school teacher here in Boise, Idaho, USA. And we took a trip to the Philippines to take our basketball team, our guys' basketball team, boys' basketball team in 2007. And it's very eye-opening. I hadn't been to the developing world for quite some time, so it was very good to just be reintroduced to the poor. God has such a heart for the poor, and so I've always asked the Lord to give me His heart, give me more of His heart, give me more of His nose, His ears, His feet, His hands, to feel, see, smell, and touch the things that He touches. So that was in 2007, and then the next year we brought a volleyball team, and it was then that I saw the sex trade, and I was deeply bothered. It's a long story, of just how it all happened, but in short, I saw the sex trade. I'm a father of 5 lovely girls, Elisha. They're just beautiful. They're all married now and with children, and the thought of them being trafficked like a commodity, like a pair of pants, or like a knife, or all things that are trafficked, drugs that are trafficked. They take the drug from here to there and it's consumed. One day I was at my computer, and up popped up a little thing back in the old before I had a Mac, and I had pop-ups all the time that pop up, and it said sex trafficking. And I clicked on it, and what I began to read, Elisha, I started crying. There were tears on my laptop. My laptop was sitting right in my lap, and I just started crying. I said, how can this be? How can a woman, a girl, be sold? That was in 2008 when I first got a glimpse of it. And then I was on this journey. So in 2008, I'm sitting there going, how can this be? I had no comprehension, and it's all over the world. I know it's all over the continent of Africa. It's here in the USA. It's everywhere. There are millions and millions and millions, all because of the demand for sex, the demand for pornography. And I saw it. I was so broken, and I just told God, I said, Lord, I will do anything. I'll do anything just to be able to set one girl free. Would that be possible, to set one girl free? And God took me up on it, and one thing became another, and I just was very curious. And so I found the sex trade in the Philippines. It was a 3-year journey, 2008, 9, 10, 11. with high school kids. We left here in Boise, Idaho, went to the Philippines, did a volleyball camp that we do with a church, a local church there, and we just minister and reach out to the community in the slums. And then that was 1 week. And the next week, we spend time with the church for another week of follow-up, but we totally left and we totally switched everything with high school kids, and we went to look for the sex trade. And we did, and my heart just tore. I was sobbing, crying. I was with my wife on that trip. I remember it so well, like it was yesterday. And I just told God, I'll do anything just to set one girl free. Well, long story short, and I'm not a rich guy. I'm rich in Jesus, but I'm not a wealthy man by any means. I'm a school teacher. I was in a Christian high school, so you get paid even less than the public schools. And so my wife and I set out to, with her support, she's just a supporter, prayer, kind of a lovely, lovely woman. And we found the sex trade, and we said, let's do something. So we got a house. How we get a house? Well, God just provided money, and we just rented a house every month. We hired a lady, a Filipino, to be our director, leader. We went out after girls. We got 4 girls in 3 months, and that's how we all began in 2012 is when we actually started. And since then, we've grown, and we've had many college graduates. I don't know what it's like where you live, Elisha, but in the Philippines, without a college degree, it's very difficult to find any work. Even the workers in McDonald's and the fast food industry are required to have a college degree. So we put our girls in college. Sometimes they don't have elementary school yet. They don't have high school. We put them through all at free, no cost to them. And they encounter Jesus in the process, and they just get fully restored. And it's a wonderful story. I just love what God is doing.
Beautiful. Oh, Kenny. What I learned from your story actually is, number one, you are full of compassion. Getting to
Yeah.
see a particular situation and it troubles you. You mentioned how your heart torn, your heart broke after witnessing or experiencing that stuff. Then you said it is not supposed to be. This is not supposed to be. Human being treated as a commodity. That's really heartbreaking. And now, secondly, trust. You have so much trust in God that even though you were just a school teacher, you trusted Him for all of the resources that will be needed to make the vision that you've got in your
Yeah.
heart come to pass. And now, thirdly, you have a lovely wife who understands your vision and also supports you. That's amazing because there are diverse people who has this vision and they try to get limited by because they do not have the resources needed to go after it, forgetting that if you can put your trust in God, just like Kenny did,
Yes.
it will happen. It will come to pass. Now see the amazing things you're doing already. So your story is just so inspiring, and I'm so
Ah,
excited to have you on the show, Kenny. Thank you so very much for coming once again. Okay, so
yes.
yeah,
I was
we
just
have
going to say, Elisha,
yeah.
I don't think anybody's ever said that to me. I usually end up saying that to others. You
Oh,
said that very few people, I'm paraphrasing, very few people actually do it.
yeah,
And I didn't have any resources. I didn't have any resources at all except my resource from heaven, from God alone. I just wanted to rescue girls. So if his heart is aligned for rescuing girls from the sex trade,
yeah,
if I simply join in what he's doing, and we did, and he has provided for 12 and a half years, every month. I mean, we have 30 girls, 30 women and children in our care. And it takes a lot of money to put them through college and through anyway. So God is my resource. And so Very, very, very good observation. Thank you so much for encouraging me.
Yeah, thank you too, for going after what you saw. And now it is happening already. I love that. So shall we get started with a few questions left? You've answered most of our questions. Okay, so can you talk to us about some of the miracles, signs, and wonders you experienced? Maybe during, your journey.
Yeah. One that I frequently tell is this, and this happened a number of years ago. I mean, we have stuff that happens, recently as well, but this one stands out. We had a girl in our care, and she'd been with us for a year. And so I was in the safe house. I traveled to the Philippines about a third of my life. So I'm there 4 months out of the year, going back and forth, back and forth. This time right now, I'm there about half of my life during the little segment I'm in. But one day I asked her, I said, so without telling her name, girl, what's your story? How did you end up here? And she goes, they all call me Lolo, which is with grandpa in Filipino or Tagalog. So Lolo, she goes, yes, I was working in the bar, and they call it working in the bar. They get trafficked. They're working in a bar. And she said, I had a dream. Now, this is a girl who was a Roman Catholic girl, hadn't just by religion only, had no relationship with Jesus at all. And she goes, I had a dream, and God told me. She's seen in the dream. She says, I see these foreigners come in, and they were with Filipina girls, and they walked in, and I heard God say, listen to what they say and trust them. And I said to her, so what did you do? And she goes, well, Lolo, I trusted them. And so she was in our care. Long story short, she graduated. She's free from financial bondage and slavery. All the girls come from deep poverty. And now she's a professional woman. I mean, she's a professional woman. Another story that I'm just came to my mind right now was, you can imagine the sex trade has a lot of sexually transmitted diseases. And the most devastating, of course, is AIDS, HIV. And she contracted HIV, and she was in our care, and she knew that her sentence in life was death because she had HIV. So she went, she was diagnosed, one test, positive. Took a second test, positive. So she's got HIV. So we prayed for her, believing in that God who provides all of our needs, believing in that name of Jesus, that he has all power and all authority, and he's given those who know him, he's also transferred that power and authority to that individual. And so believing in faith, that he does indeed live in me. All the power of God is inside of me as a co-heir of Christ, the scripture says. Prayed for her. My team there prayed for her. She actually, while they're praying for her, she went, she just like so much power on her body that she just blacked out. She just went, ah. And she awakens, and we wanted to go get her tested, and she did not want to go get tested. She did not. No, I don't want to go get tested. No, let's go get tested one more time. Well, the reason I'm telling this story, of course, there's a good ending. She gets tested, and she's HIV negative. And to God be all the glory, all the honor. It's not because of me, but it's because of Christ in me, the hope of glory, and Christ in our Filipina staff that was there at the time praying for her. And so we've had one story after another of just how God has such a heart for these girls. Anyway, that's just a couple.
Amazing, beautiful stories. Getting to realize what God is doing. It's really amazing. I tell you, Kenny, that's beautiful. Okay, so we've got two more questions to go.
Yes.
All right. Can you explain the process that a girl ends up being trafficked? Can you explain that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not like TV. It's not like television. It's not like Hollywood. I mean, that happens about this much out of, that much. The Hollywood version where they stop a van, they grab the girl and they put her in and she's now trafficked. That does happen. But 99.9% of girls get trafficked because of their poverty status, their economic status. So they're in deep poverty. And if you were to define trafficking in one short sentence, it would be exploitation of vulnerability. So in other words, you're vulnerable. Now let's exploit that part of you which is vulnerable. So we take girl living in the province, they call it. So we say in America, the countryside. So they're living deep away from the big cities. They're living in by the millions. There's over 100 million people in the Philippines. It's very populated for a very small country. So people go through, traffickers go through, and oftentimes even family members will do this because they are, I don't know how it happens, but family members or neighbors, friends will, because they get a finder's fee for delivering a girl to the location. So traffickers go through and they talk to these women and they say, there are jobs in Angeles City, the city of angels in the Philippines. It's the sex tourist capital in the nation of the Philippines, where over 12,000 girls are in 250 bars. They're just by the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds in these bars. So they go through, they tell her, we're looking for waitresses and we're looking for housekeeping. We're looking for people to work in the restaurants and the hotels. And then her response is always this: I don't have a college degree, so I don't qualify. Their answer is, there's such a demand for workers. We're accepting anybody. And we think that you are smart enough to come and to work for us. I have a job. So they give them money. I'm going to give you the story I'll give you the exact story of one of our girls, college graduates. She was a Christian believer. She loved God. She was a worship leader. So they came through. They told her that story. And she said, I don't have a college degree. And they said, it doesn't matter. So they gave her money. Took her 72 hours, took her 3 days to get there by bus, by boat, by Jeep, by a tricycle, like a motorbike, and a bus. And she made it 3 days later. She arrived. They let her sleep for 1 day. Then the next day they met and they gave her this address. And she went to this location. They drew a little map for her and she went to it. And it was a bar on this street that is devoted solely to the sex trade. And she's telling me this story, just like I'm telling you. She says, Lolo meaning grandpa, Lolo, we met at this bar. And I thought, why the bar? And so she's in there and they started talking and she said, I'm here for the job, for the working at the hotel. And they go, oh, you've arrived too late. You didn't get here early enough. All those jobs are taken, but you owe us money, so you must pay us back. And so this woman looked at a box of bikinis and she said, go to that box, choose a bikini, and be out here in an hour and a half. And she's crying, telling me this story, saying, Lolo, I was tricked. They trafficked me. And then, so one might say, in America anyway, we would say, well, did you go to the police? But in much of the world, the police are corrupt and they're all part of it. They get money. And so in the Philippines, you don't go to the police to say, I've been trafficked. They're part of it. I don't know what it's like in your country. But around the world, many of the law enforcement are all part of the trafficking as well. They guard the traffickers because they get money. And so she's stuck. And now she has to pay her debt off, which is very hard to pay off. And that's a typical story of how they get trafficked. They just get tricked because of exploitation of vulnerability.
That's
It's heartbreaking.
heartbreaking.
It's evil. Yes, it is, Elisha.
Thank God for what you're doing, Kenny. At least that's a hope for several other people. Thank God for what you're doing. Thank God. So,
all glory to him. All glory to him. It's all him. Yeah. Thank you, Elisha.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Okay, so it has been an interesting moment with you on the show, Kenny. So to bring this to an end, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those ones who would like to reach out to you, learn more about what you do, or if would want to support to what you're doing, how can that be possible?
Yeah, well, as far as I'll do the last one first, as far as connecting with us. And by the way, we mentor people. I mentor people all over the world. We've had great success in what we do. And so God is entrusted with me mentoring other people around the world. And they can go to wipeeverytear.org, and they can find me. And maybe my name will be in your podcast there, but it's Kenny Sacht, and you can find me. There's only one of me in the whole world. And so you can find me on Messenger, Kenny Sacht. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook, and they can get a hold of me there. But anyway, wipeeverytear.org, and that's how they can always connect with us if they have any interest in what we do or whatever. And then, what was your other question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, beautiful. A final thought, like to round up.
Oh, yes. Final thoughts. God is good. God is really real. He's not a storybook, a fictional character. Jesus is real. He has a heart for the brokenhearted. So anybody listening to this, I think you said it the best, is that you just need to believe in a God that also shares your heart and just do something and invite him into the process. I always say, find something that's impossible to do and invite God into it and just watch him show up. And so I just encourage your listeners, your people who are watching this, if there's a burden on your heart, like I would just love to do something. Here's what happens, Elisha, is that people tend to think like, I want to, in my case, let's say I want to feed thousands of people. Well, God is not calling you to feed thousands. He's calling you to feed one. And if you can feed one and he provides, what's one more? One becomes two. Two becomes 3 and 4. 4 becomes 6, 7, and 8. And that's how it's just one. And so I'm always stopping for the one. I just want, for example, what's our goal for this month for getting girls out of sex trade? One girl. So I encourage your people, just that God is so good. He's a powerful God, and he loves the poor and the broken. And he calls us to go minister to the poor and the broken. So just go find one, and you'll make God so happy.
Beautiful. I love that.
Thank you, Elisha.
That's going to be the end of the show, Kenny. Thank you for coming, and thank you for impacting us with your amazing insight and those inspiring stories. Thank you so very much, man. It means a whole lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Elisha. It was such a pleasure to be with you.